Hello, I hope all is progressing well. My name is Kevin DeFriend. Welcome to I Don't Know. We can talk about it, where there are a lot of topics to talk about in the world. We can talk about a few openly, safely, civilly. So, starting off today's episode, we're going to be talking about something that's on my mind because teachers deserve proper attention. Teachers are, in a sense, like caregivers to a degree, educationally. And I do think compensation for teachers' efforts is really necessary. Now, of course, when it comes to employment, I'm of the mind that economically balances need to be in place in terms of wages matching a location of a business, so people can be able to afford where they live, which ideally is where they work. So where people live, costs vary depending on businesses in the area. Now, focusing on teacher salaries going up to $60K a year, which will be nice in a long-term sense as a standard starting point, because teachers are dealing with a lot of variance when it comes to raising an individual, handling an individual's learning parameters as middle people, because I feel as though educational grounds are really middle grounds. So an individual will likely learn at home in other spaces outside of academia, then come to this space and have to really focus in on something, education at large, that is to help in the long run, which I'm all for. Education. I think education is so important, and proper education can really help an individual go so far in the world at large, in the world in which we live in. So we're gonna take a glance at a video of teachers, individuals working within the field for a few different perspectives, and I'm going to be watching along with you, of course, responding.
This morning, the national teacher shortage and lack of new applicants causing alarm across the country.
As an elementary principal back in the 90s, I would have 100 to 150 applicants for a kindergarten to second grade position, and I'm currently sitting at 5.
Florida seeing as many as 9,500 open teaching positions just weeks before school starts, and it's predicted by 2024 around more than 300,000 teachers will be needed nationwide. Along with persistently low wages, teachers claim they're experiencing higher levels of disrespect from students and parents amid hybrid learning and excessive lesson planning demands. But the decision to leave is a tough one.
This one is big. So the reality of being in a school, being in an institution, particularly with schools, when you deal with a person's child, when you have a child that needs to go to school, when you have a space that has to deal with all of these individuals coming from these different perspectives, then these perspectives are in a space for a purpose like learning, though learning is not the only thing that's going to happen in those spaces, though a lot that happens in life can become a lesson. So all these perspectives are clashing, and the nature versus nurture comes into play on so many levels here. Being a teacher, I believe, is not easy at any school. Just like being a student. Being a student at a school, I don't think is easy. We have so many factors. Even in a perfect school, there are external influences, external factors outside of the school to consider. We're dealing with a very delicate system. We're dealing with a very sensitive middle ground that needs a lot of proper attention. Will increasing salaries be helpful with retention? I think so. I think more talent will look to schools to teach, to be teachers. Now, of course, a person can be a bad teacher. So it's really important, I think, to be assessing the entire spectrum of education, which doesn't always fall on the side of any particular individual, though does, at the end of the day, rest on the ones that show up as responsible. So if a child fails in school, schools will likely be on the radar for being responsible for that child. If home life is not good, that will, to some individuals, appear as important and automatically be on the radar, though might not be what's immediately present on the radar. There are so many factors, and I really think it's important to acknowledge nature versus nurture in all aspects of life, though the reality that school is middle ground.
I was definitely very emotional about leaving the kids, but I just started to realize that I needed to do it for myself. I felt a lot of guilt leaving because I know that there is that shortage.
Some districts now offering teachers bonuses.
The reality is, being a teacher, some might say is a calling, some might say it's a job. A calling can be difficult, a job can be difficult. Self-awareness, self-care is highly important because of the way that education is. It's so passing. After a certain amount of time, you can have new students. Hopefully, the students are succeeding, moving on. So with that, there is a reality that has to be with teachers to be like, how am I moving on as well? Now, coming into conversation of salary, especially for a good teacher that feels like teaching is the person's calling, that's a wonderful investment. And it's beautiful to work in that sense with individuals that are looking to teach long term, because I know people that enjoy teaching. They like summer and they like the benefits of even working in the summer, different programs. And people like how the schedules are as teachers, even with a heavy workload. Varies per state, per city, per town. Though self-care and self-awareness very important, especially when it comes to realistically employment.
To stay in Washington, D.C., signing bonuses up to $2,500 for those who can teach in highest need content areas. In Nevada, some districts offering $5,000 bonuses to full-time employees in addition to competitive pay.
The new teacher starting salary makes us much more competitive with other districts in the Southwest and in the mountain regions.
Current teacher Rebecca Bussey has this advice for other teachers thinking of leaving.
You need to make sure that you can take care of yourself and meet your own needs professionally and personally, so you can go in and make sure that the kids are getting the best education and the best environment possible.
Another reason that teachers say they're leaving or are thinking about leaving, the pandemic, lack of pandemic pay, and safety concerns, and that includes gun violence. Zoreen Shah, ABC News, Washington, D.C.
On to another topic, which I find very concerning, actually due to a different type of consumption, though around the same idea of how certain drugs or healing tools that can intoxicate one are in the form of familiar candy. It's really dangerous when a pill doesn't look like a pill anymore, though looks like an item I can buy at a corner store for 5 cents to eat for flavor or sugary taste. So I come across a story about gummy bears with THC in it and children consuming them. Of course, the way I feel about all of this as an individual that's sober is that if you're an adult, keep the adult items where only adults can reach them. Of course, I also feel like in a home which has children, especially, there are a few ways. One, ensure a conversation happens with the children about consumption, especially when whatever one consumes can intoxicate one, is in a space a child can access. Two, ensure that there are no adult items that can intoxicate one in the home, though in a space outside of the home in which only adults go to. And three, have adult items that can be intoxicating outside in celebratory fashion at events particularly and only. So that's a little different than just outside of the home. It's more like occasionally for like a wedding, for example. So at the venue, though not otherwise. Some people, it's a part of their lifestyle for varying reasons, even some health reasons. And that's when the more daily or weekly consumption habits need to be in consideration. So I say outside of the home, in the immediate space. If one doesn't feel comfortable having a conversation with one's child about what one is consuming. So we're going to watch the video here, and I'll be watching it with you. That's the whole point of the we'll be watching it.
From gummies to chocolates, many cannabis edibles look a lot like regular snacks, but these THC-infused products are catching more than adults' attention. A report out today from medical journal Pediatrics reveals the rate of children under 6 eating cannabis edibles is skyrocketing, rising more than 1,300% in recent years. Nearly all of the exposures reported happened in the child's own home, and more than a fifth resulted in hospitalization.
For a long part of it, we didn't know if he would be okay.
Elizabeth Perry's son, Oliver, had to be medevaced after getting into her cannabis-infused gummies recommended by her doctor as a sleep aid. She takes less than 1 gummy. Her toddler ate 15.
It looks like candy. It tastes sweet, and nothing about it to a child gives any indication that it's something that he should not consume.
The troubling trend ballooned, researchers say, as families spent more time at home during the pandemic and a growing number of states legalized recreational marijuana.
The symptoms kids can get range quite a bit. It can be very mild and nothing can happen. We've also seen kids get pretty sick, which includes coma, difficulties breathing.
The pediatric study recommends you store edibles in a locked compartment away from the kitchen, and if your child accidentally ingests any, call your local poison control center immediately. Some states have passed laws regulating product packaging, but nothing at the federal level. The FDA says it's working to address concerns.
Wow. All I can say
It was the day after New
the food, the candy, it looks very, very appetizing. I mean, my goodness. Stay safe. Hello, everyone. It's time for an origami exercise break. So the idea is, after dealing with so many serious topics, we're going to take a little breather. We're going to get into some lighter topics. And of course, a good way to do that is by doing something that's good for your brain and fun, like making origami. So we're going to start by folding our origami using a square sheet here with the designs on one side. Folding it in half from corner to corner is how we're going to start here. To help the later folds, want to make sure the earlier folds that happen because the more folds sometimes can be a little better. Sometimes too many folds can be unhelpful. So we have this here. Now we fold it corner to corner. Once you have that, I'm just going to fold it whichever way you want. You can fold it this way or you can fold it that way, but you got to fold it in half. So we're going to go from one big triangle to just another smaller triangle. All right, so we're going to take that triangle and we're going to split it in half. Oh. Now we're going to open up one side, so we're going to make it a diamond. So you can see all I have to do is take one side. I put my thumb inside like this, and then I just open it just a little bit, right here, and wham! I make a little diamond here, and this will meet with some other creases, so it'll fold a little better here. So same idea here. The other, see, I have a nice little flap here. Got a long flap. I'm just gonna take it. I take my thumb and I just gently insert my thumb within, so I can make a diamond shape. And if you feel like there's a little crunch at the top, so if there's a little crunch there, then you can just kind of like pull at it a little bit and adjust it. Mess with it, and bam, you get a diamond. Now, one way to do it is to just press in and then adjust it afterwards. That's what I'm doing right now. So sometimes it comes out really easy, sometimes a little more difficult. But, you know, mess around with it and you'll have the right form eventually. Okay, so now we're going to, the main portion though is to get it, like the diamond part, down. So it's like the front and back have to be matching, and that helps everything else. So now I'm going to fold in one side, you see, then fold in the other side. So come in here, and that's it. We're just going to fold in the flaps. Fold in the flaps, and I'm going to do that to the other side. All we're doing right now, creating creases so that we can get to the folds that we're going to need. So don't worry about if there's some unevenness with the paper at the bottom. Just fold it as best you can toward the center so the halves meet at the center. As you can see, now they're there. So now on both sides, the flap is in. Just gonna flap down, and I'm flapping down on my side right now, though you want to be mindful to flap down on both sides. So that's all I'm doing. I'm just taking that upper flap and flapping it over the folds that already done. Now I'm gonna open the folds again. That's what's gonna happen on both sides. I'm gonna open the folds. So now I'm gonna take this here. After I open the fold, the whole point of doing this top fold is just so I can bend at this top crease that's going across. This part just requires lifting, then splitting. The reason is to get your crane ready. There's a little tear at the top, which is fine. So we come in here, and boom, as you can see, that's just all from the bending. And I'm holding this side so you can see the idea of this flat part and, of course, this bend happening. It's never gonna exceed. Now you see, oh, look at that. Ba-bum. We still have our triangle base here. We're gonna do the same thing here. We have that line already, and just so you have an idea, that fold down creates the line, fold up, and then boom, I come up here and I fold the sheet up. As I'm folding the sheet up, it's to get this shape, which is on the other side, this long diamond shape. Of course, in between that, we still have our flap. So we're always going to keep that middle flap here. Next thing is to fold again the inside. So we're going to fold this portion inside. We're going to fold the next portion inside here. So you see, we cut in with the fold that's similar to what we do earlier. We just fold it. And like I said, it doesn't have to be neat. It just has to be close and meeting in the center. So the folds just have to complete. And so we're going to fold again. Like you see that side, I fold in, and I'm going to fold in here again. Also remember, when you're folding, you have to fold with this top part. You see that middle part is still there that we used to create the straight edges. It's still there, and that's what we're folding with, facing up. So if that top part is facing down, it's a good idea to restart the fold. There may be an origami form from there, but that's not the one we're doing right now. You might even be able to make a crane from that other position with it upside down. As you can see, that's probably going to be challenging. Though, we're doing the one where that, see how it's sticking up right there? That is at the center, so that's always there. So now we're going to just close each flap. So we're going to close them. You see this right here? We're going to just close them. We're going to just close them. And look, we closed them. We closed the flaps. So now that we've closed them, now the next thing is to flap these up. And we're just going to go with that straight across. So we're just going to fold it up. You see that? And look, we're going to do it again. We're going to just take that, it's across, and we're just going to fold it up. Just like that. Now you see what happens there? Now we're going to, what I'm showing, when I say we see what happens here, we have this cross pattern. So we have these two here, you see? And now we have these two here, and they're meeting. So now we're going to take this here, fold down the middle, and so you have a clear picture. All I'm doing is, once this comes up, just folding it, bringing the edges at these bottom edges here together, then just folding it evenly up. Just folding it evenly up, boom. Then I'm taking a flap. See, that flap is going down. Now we have our crane's wings, and that is going to happen again on this side. And what you'll notice is, what's appearing? Our triangle is appearing, the one that is at the top. See how it stays there? It's our holder. So when we have our holder here, we have our wings set at the sides, and of course, now we're going to pull out our leg, and we're going to pull out our head. So this is why I say it doesn't really matter which, like, about too much of how you bend the edges, because you can see here, this can be a pretty cool, it's not the perfect fold, but it can become a pretty cool tail with a little bit of flair. And this, like, near perfect sharp piece can become the head. So we're going to just bend it in. So we're going to bend it in here. And when we bend it in, all we're doing is just bending the tip in down the middle. so you can have an idea. So like I open it, and then I can just pull this tip down. You can see how it has a bend here. See that? It has a bend there. So now how it looks from the side is I pull it out here, and then I just squeeze the head, and voila, we have here our origami crane with some flair. You know, it looks like a crane with some experience in life. So here you go, the origami crane. I'm glad about doing this origami exercise with you, and I hope that you enjoy it and make some origami yourself. We're going to continue on now to some other topics. So this week I go to the theaters and I end up watching M3gan and Puss in Boots. I do think both films are good to pay for and view in theaters. I think Meg is actually put together very well in a way that leaves the audience members that joined from the beginning of the film with a lot to take away from the film. I feel as though the first 5 minutes of M3gan are so important. I mention this because in the theater, I remember a few individuals coming after those 5 minutes, and I'm like, if I enter this film within 5 minutes, I'm missing a lot of important data, which revolves around technology, raising a child with technology, what it means to be family. We get all these points through the rest of the film, though the context doesn't sit so well without the initial points in the first 5 minutes of the film. And I think the film offers a lot for parents and single individuals to consider when it comes to situations of closeness. Being with other human beings, especially in a world where technology seems to fill in a gap for some individuals, where technology seems so present in our lives, I feel as though the idea of phubbing, a new term for me, comes into play. So the idea of phubbing is that a person goes to technology in lieu of an actual person. So it's like a replacement. In M3gan, we're dealing with this idea of how technology becomes a replacement, how technology in a life can mean so much, can mean so little, can be something that people are aware of, especially when in relation to, like I said, raising a family, raising a child, closeness. I like the film. I think it's decent. I think it's not creepy for creepy's sake. It's not trying to, at least to me, shock me more than bring to the table actuality, what is necessary to deal with. Because technology is very present in lives of youth, adults, and in developing society. How will it all turn out? Who knows? We're working within a lot of layers of life when it comes to technology, especially. So I like Meg. I think Meg does a fine job with all it's bringing to the table. Though it does get what I like to call movie cheesy. Toward the end, it's a film that does a good job. Now, Puss in Boots, I like as well. Puss in Boots is a very, very funny film, and they being the creators, do a really good job of implementing so many moralistic aspects. It's not just a cautionary tale, it's a cautionary adventure. Though there are a lot of strong points and comedic points, I do feel as a method comes into play in which I think creators have an understanding for certain mediums of kind of introducing though dismissing, whether that's for comedic sense or to get the story rolling along, for the juicy parts, for the highlights, perhaps for the audience. I don't know if the creators have a particular audience in mind, though I do think at points the film just really moves along, though the parts that stay are really good, and I do appreciate what the film has to offer in moralistic senses, highly of course, because we're dealing with these stories that are, as I mentioned, cautionary tales. And to be so familiar, though so distant from the actual stories, makes the film even more interesting, fun to watch, though also leaves me as an audience member like, that's a quick scene. Okay, that's what we're gonna do with that. Does that really make sense? I mean, it's a movie. Though I do remember really enjoying it and really having a lot of good laughs watching the film. What's going on? So, on episode 2, if you recall, or if you have to watch it, I talk about the vegan book and the purpose-driven life here by, his name is Rick Warren. So the idea here in this book is to go through a chapter a day. The Vegan Life, I'm done reading it. A very fascinating text to read. I'm very appreciative of the information and the non-bias the text carries. And I feel as though moving forward in my life as a vegan will be wonderfully successful. So, the practice I'm bringing in until I'm done with this book is sharing the day that I most recently read. And day 11, Rick Warren leaves us with thinking about my purpose. The point to ponder: God wants to be my best friend. The verse to remember: friendship with God is reserved for those who reverence Him. Psalm 25:14a. LB. I think that's an addition. Question to consider: what can I do to remind myself to think about God and talk to Him more often throughout the day? What can I do to remind myself to think about God and talk to Him more often throughout the day? What's interesting is I actually go to church on Sunday, a Catholic church, and it is literally Little Christmas, January 8th, at this Catholic church. And that's one of the questions the priest asks: what will anyone bring to Jesus if we know Jesus is going to be in our life? What will we bring to Jesus? So this question resonates so much because I'm like so in time with the sermon. What can I do to remind myself to think about God and talk to Him more often throughout the day? And the point to ponder again is God wants to be my best friend, which is so cool to think about, because a person that is trying to build a relationship with God has to understand building a relationship with God is different than building a relationship with another individual. Though there are valuable parameters and aspects of building a relationship with God, that can be in practice building a relationship with another human individual. So of course, I think even recognizing what building a relationship with God entails, what that relationship building involves, can help a person realize, okay, that's what the relationship building is with God. Now here's what I'm going to determine the relationship building is going to be with another individual. And I think being mindful in building relationships between different entities can help one become more aware of what boundaries are in a relationship, what supports are in a relationship, what can be of and in a relationship. Differing distinctly between differing entities. So I bring that up because this is the most recent text, and I think it's just important to recognize, like in C.S. Lewis's For Love, different types of relationships in a mature sense. I have to acknowledge that there are different parameters for building relationships for different types of relationships. So that's where we're at with the book review. I mentioned 3 books in this one. Of course, The Purpose-Driven Life is what I'm talking about, or at least talking through. And thank you so much for joining me, for watching. I don't know, we can talk about it, where we're exploring a variety of topics because we can, because any individual can have an opinion. Hopefully it's a good one. Hopefully meaning that I hope individuals are thinking and opining from a perspective within, reflective and curious, and not in a bad way, not in a malicious way, not with ill intent, but with curious intent toward growth and intent of learning in the best ways possible. So I hope you check out Ep.3.com. Remember, we're going to have a bookmark raffle. It's going to be $50 max, $25 gas card, $25 gift card to a particular store to suit needs more so than wants, though you might want what you need. And of course, there are plenty of avenues of creativity to explore via Pietr's. So I'm glad about making this episode, and I hope to receive comments, feedback, whether that be here or elsewhere, in person, virtually, in the space of the internet, literally in the space of the internet. That'll be cool. So, using the discussions, the panels available via Ep.3.com is a good way to do so. I have a podcast available for you listeners also, so you can be listening to, I don't know, we can talk about it while you're on the go. Thank you very much again. Onward and upward, Kevin DeFren.
Hello, I hope all is progressing well. Welcome to Ep.3.com, where the belief of expression, the choice to express in the public sphere, is to bear in the wilds your choice responsibilities, where beyond anyone and anywhere else you will encounter yourself, thrives. I bring you here because on the main page, you'll be able to find recent blogs, a few links to interesting stories, amongst other forms of creativity by Kevin DeFren. Of course, if we go to the menu, you can get to the pictures, the music, the books I've read, publications, merchandise, and the form of pictures, and a little of about page about pictures. The form of pictures is where you can be an active participant, where, of course, we have the podcast, the YouTube channel, and discussion panels for people to join in and introduce me to a new topic to review so we can further develop and just have interesting civil discourse. And of course, you can go to merchandise as well and be proactive in that regard. So, thanks for watching. I hope to be in conversation with you soon.